What's up, guys? It's Isaac here at Tobacco Road Harley-Davidson, and I have your new bike of the week, this 2024 Harley-Davidson Nightster. Now, we did a video a little while back on the Nightster Special. Now, this bike is still very special. However, it is the base model Nightster. So what that's going to mean is what we're going to be talking about for this video, as well as the next video. This is a RevMax motor with the subframes and wheels and controls. There's not much more to it than that. You still get a lot of good Nightster benefits, but that Nightster Special, that's going to raise the entry price just a little bit higher, and the biggest thing you're going to get out of that bike is going to be the more tech. But this one's a little bit more stripped down. So it is still Nightster, so you're still rocking Showa suspension. You've got, and it's going to be rocking that Sportster silhouette. So, you know, classic styling with a lot more modern performance. That 9,500 RPM red line coming out of that 975 RevMax motor really makes this thing pretty fun to ride. And you'll see it's a very familiar riding position. So, I mean, I'll go ahead and show you that first thing. I mean, it's comfortable. It's got the mid controls right there, and it's just a super light motorcycle. This motorcycle is so light for a handful of reasons, but two of the biggest ones are going to be that it is a RevMax platform. So what that is it's going to have that motor as a stressed member. So there is no longer any on this bike. There's no big frame with the motor dropped in. Now the motor is actually a stressed member, so it actually has the front subframe and the rear subframes actually bolted on directly to that motor. So that way it helps reduce weight a little bit better, makes for a stiffer chassis, some of those more technical benefits. But that's going to help reduce the weight. Another big thing is that this bike's going to feel a lot lighter. So it's a great entry-level motorcycle. It's going to have the lowest entry cost, and it's also going to have one of the lower seats. It's only 27.1 inch seat height, and it's also going to be one of the lower weights. So it's going to be about 482 pounds wet. So less than 500 pounds for this motorcycle. But you're going to feel even less of that because of where that weight is. So on most motorcycles, they're going to have the fuel tank where a fuel tank normally goes. But on this one, you've probably already seen the trick. The fuel tank's actually underneath the seat. So when you want to go put gas in it, you can just use the key right here, and then just go ahead and lift it right on up. So then you've got your fuel tank down here, so you're also not going to be spilling gas all over the tank. If you're spilling gas all over the tank, you messed up. And then there's also no need for a locking gas cap because it's the seat, and you have to use the key to get into it anyway. So by that, it is already a locking fuel system, so you don't have to get that locking cap. So that's really nice. But it's all right there. So it is a 3.1 gallon tank. So it's a pretty good amount of fuel, and with about a 52 mile per gallon range, by that 3.1, it's going to be about 150 mile range on this bike. So it's going to be able to go pretty far. So it's going to be very helpful. It's going to be really nice, but it's going to make for a very nice, light, easy feeling. And then with that tire setup, so it's a very familiar tire setup too, so it's going to be just feel very nimble. It's a very slim profile, so it's just going to feel like a really fun bike to go ride around. Then the power that you're getting out of it, that's going to be quite a bit. Horsepower is going to be about 91, and then the foot-pounds of torque is going to be in the 70s range. So most bikes, they're going to have one or the other, but this bike's really able to get you both, which is fantastic. So, you know, a lot of folks that are running these, they're saying that they'll compete with the 117 lowrider S and STs pretty well. So because, and the biggest advantage to that is that 9,500 RPM red line. So, I mean, you can just, when the M8 has to shift up to get to that next gear, you're still climbing in that rev range. So you're still gonna have a little bit more power to give. But it's all gonna be how it feels. You know, that Milwaukee 8 platform, it's still going to be big V-twin power, so you're going to get a lot more torque in there, and it's going to feel that a little bit more in the lower RPM range, whereas this bike, it's the RevMax, so you're going to feel a lot more of that power in that higher RPM range, and it's going to be a little bit more horsepower centered. Then talking about some of the safety features on this bike, so it has traction control, it has drag, torque, slip control, so if you downshift too quickly, it's going to make it a little bit harder for that rear tire to skid. It's gonna have those. You don't get tire pressure monitoring. You're not gonna get that until you move up to the Nightster Special. And this one is available in 2 colors. It's available in that base billiard gray, as well as the vivid black that you see here right in front of me. And this, with the black wheels, it looks pretty sharp. You do have the ride mode, so you can really get this bike set up exactly how you want it to be. Now, you don't have customizable ride modes, but you do have the 3 you can select between. That's going to be rain, road, and sport. Sport obviously is going to be the sportiest, where rain mode is going to reduce a little bit of that power. So if you're starting out on the bike, you really don't want to get into too much power. You really want to keep it even more mellow, more tame. Rain mode's going to help that out quite a bit. It's also going to have a little more enhanced ABS because it's anticipating a better chance of some sort of wheel slippage because it's rain mode and it's looking for those slicker conditions. But then let's go ahead and look at these controls. So it is a little bit more, so it is simplified controls. That, like I said, that's gonna be one of the biggest differences between the Nightster and the Nightster Special. So to start it, it is still gonna be the key fob. So you have the hard key to get to the seat as well as to lock the steering column. So that way, or at least the neck. So that way, you know, if you're have it parked outside of a bloody, a little bit sketchy apartment complex, you can turn the wheel here, and then you can go ahead and lock that just like so. And you can take the key out, and then you'll see that the bars are actually locked. So if somebody was going to try to steal it, it's going to be a little bit harder to push it up onto a trailer or push it away. You're just going to be pretty limited to a circle right here. But when you're ready to ride, you can just go ahead, unlock that, and then you have the bars straight, and you can do whatever you need to there. But to actually start it, you do have to have this little fob within the proximity of the motorcycle, so just keep it in the pocket of your riding jacket and you're good to go. But again, it's one of my favorite controls to turn it on, so you just flip that and then you'll just tap and press, and that's going to go ahead and cut it on. You do have an analog speedometer, and then you have the little LCD little readout here, very similar to what you see on the M8 Softails. So you see you have your miles on the bike, you've got your trip A, your trip B, your fuel range, you have a fuel gauge, you have a clock, you have your RPMs, and then you have a few other settings you can go into, but you can also see your modes you're in. So you can change your modes by pressing the mode button on the right. Makes sense, pretty easy. And there's also a traction control button above that, so you can play around with that a little bit more if you'd like. I'm gonna leave it in road mode. You've got your hazards on the right side too. I really like that you don't have to reach across the power button to turn your hazards on. It's pretty easy right there. Left side, you've got the horn down low, and then you have the button that I was just using to cycle through and see all the other features within the screen. You've got a pretty easy little high-low beam there, so that's pretty nice to just go ahead and flick that pretty easy if you need to. It is a very bright headlight on this bike. I haven't ran it at night yet, but just moving it around in the dealership showroom floor, if somebody cuts on a Nightster on one side, and it's like, oh, there's a bright LED right there. So that's really cool. I really want to see that going on at night. And it is LEDs all the way around too, which is really great. Yeah, so those are the features. This is more European style turn signals. So it's just a left to right all with the left thumb, and they are self-canceling, but you can just push it in to go ahead and cancel itself. And then we'll go ahead and flip that to cut it back off. So easy as that. So what's adjustable on this bike? What's going to be adjustable are your clutch and brake levers, which is really cool. You don't have to swap anything out for it. You can just lift it up a little bit to relieve the pressure, and then turn this dial around to either bring that lever closer to your hand or further out, depending on how large your hands are. So you can do that with the clutch lever. It's very easy clutch lever to pull, as well as with the brake. And these are both Brembos for the front and the rear, so you can bring that lever a little bit closer to you if you need to. If you can't quite reach it. You do have the bar in mirrors right here, but there are plenty of aftermarket accessories to really do whatever you want to with this bike, including move your mirrors there if you'd like to. You can also, so the front suspension, that's not adjustable, but the rear suspension, you can adjust the preload on those Showas. Then of course you can adjust the throttle mapping, the ABS, and all those features right there through the mode button like I was just talking about. Once again, it's not too much, it's not too little. It's just a really great entry-level bike, or just a bike that someone wants to rip it around. You know, maybe you have a Road Glide Limited, and that's just a little bit much of a bike to go ride around town and really ride, you know, quick trips all over town. You really want something a little bit sportier to go rip around, this would be it. This is the Nightster Standard. But if you really like the Nightster and you really want to know if the Nightster is for you, or if the Nightster Special is going to be the one for you, then be sure to check our other videos so you can see us dive into what makes the Special so special. But in the meantime, here's the Nightster Standard for you for your new bike of the week. If you have any other questions, be sure to ask it in the comments or come by and see us. So in the meantime, ride safe, and we hope to see you soon.